Oh, Calum Macritchie, aka Scott's Meyer here. You've caught me studying on more important matters, but nevertheless, I'll take some time out to explain another story to you.
This is the story about a man named Brock. A young man named Brock, who was the son of a man named Kronk.
You know, Kronk, the right-hand man to the Emperor's advisor Yzma, the right-hand man made specifically to serve the Emperor's advisor Yzma's right-hand man. That right-hand man?
Yes, that right-hand man.
Oh yeah, that's me all right. It's all come together.
Viewers of this channel may recall my friend Kneale giving a backstory for the son of Jack Skellington and Sally by the name of Jolly in preparation for his own Descendants D&D game. And he encouraged his group of friends to come up with unique characters of their own, inspired by the setting of Descendants. It should be known that me and Kneale really don't like the first Descendants movie. You can watch the me and Kneale's review of the first Descendants movie on Disney Plus Pals. Our thoughts on the sequels should be coming up soon in the future. Don't worry, the sequels do get better. But just to catch you all up to speed, Descendants is basically this set in this world where all the Disney heroes and villains are together. The villains have been banished to this Isle of the Lost. They have children, they grow up to be teenagers, to be punk and hip. And even though the high school setting is very predictable, the premise of the Disney villains and heroes having children is fascinating, to say the least. There have been many characters, old and new, established in the movies and in the spin-off books alike. However, there seemed to be a few characters that needed to be explored, i.e. Kneale and me and Kyler and Sherry's have invented some new characters. Kneale has invented a son of Jack Skellington and Sally. I have invented a son of Kronk and Birdwell. Who's Birdwell? Oh, she was Kronk's girlfriend turned wife in Kronk's New Groove, remember? Perhaps you could like to click me and Sherry's review of Kronk's New Groove as well. I reckon Brock, Brock's the name of Kronk's son that we've come up with. I reckon Brock would pick up on his parents' habits of being an effective scout, good communicator with animals, and excellent at cooking, even though he's not the smartest guy. And Kneale and I have collaborated on a story. He told me to come up with one. I came up with a story, largely set in the world of Emperor's New Groove, but he and I got into a chat, and we arranged to make a story set in the world of Descendants based on Kneale's ideas. And I've written down a whole series of notes, and basically this is a backstory to justify the Descendants D&D game where the villains attack. And if there are any inconsistencies or goof-ups, Kneale, I am sorry. People, if you are confused about anything, please comment down below and we'll try our best to answer consistently. Also, there's a few subtle details I'm not meant to leave out, so again, I'm sorry if I missed them. Without further ado, let's begin. Brock's backstory. The son of Kronk and Birdwell had a Jewish wedding. It was beautiful. So, Brock's backstory begins before the first Descendants movie. In the Descendants lore, it's established that Yensid plays a crucial role in keeping an eye out on the villains. Shame we didn't really see Yensid that much in the movies. Sure would have saved a lot of trouble, like that one time when Hades tried to punch through the barrier in the third movie. Would have saved a lot of trouble. Descendants is not the most consistent franchise. Regardless, Yensid, in this story, before these events, was at an important meeting in regards to the fates of heroes and villains alike. All the villains they needed to acquire were banished at the Isle of the Lost, but Yensid noticed something peculiar about Kronk, in that he was formerly the sidekick of a villain, but has since repented of that. Yensid thought of a good job for Kronk and his family, in order to help Kronk atone for his sins of the past. Yensid would hire Kronk to atone for his past sins by working for Yensid on the Isle of the Lost in his hub place. And Kronk and Birdwell and his son Brock would work as cooks. Yes, Kronk and his family would serve Yensid food, because sorcerer's busy, I guess.
Don't become a sorcerer.
So as Kronk and Birdwell and Brock were working away at the kitchens, they were in a privileged location within the Isle of the Lost to be working for Yensid. And during this time, Brock had met some of the VKs during his work and in passing. And he may or may not have gone to school with some of these VKs. VK is a slogan for, an acronym for Villain Kids. So one day, Brock is setting up fireworks for a special occasion. And he meets the headless body of Jolly. As you know, I assume Jolly is kind of a stitched up doll, and through a series of events, Jolly lost his head, and now Brock has met this headless body. The headless body is clearly lost and has happened to stumble into Brock. Brock, being dim-witted and not fully realizing the full extent of being a headless body, gets Jolly's headless body to carry some equipment for him and talk about his issues, and they become buddies. Yeah, you know this is going to be a weird story when you have the son of Kronk befriending a headless body. Meanwhile, Heather, the daughter of the Queen of Hearts, thought up by Charisse, happens to have Jolly's head. And Jolly is presumably giving her hints as to where his body could be based on what he's feeling due to, still being, conscious of his body. Which leads them to Brock's place. And Brock, despite his privileged position, still wants to escape the Isle of the Lost just like everybody else does, because the Isle of the Lost basically sucks. A lot of the food supplies everyone gets are basically like half-eaten muffins? Half-eaten muffins and rot. The place stinks. It's smelly. And they want to be free. So Jolly, Heather, and Brock all meet each other. Brock says hi to the people and introduces him to his new friend, the Headless Body, only to find out that the Headless Body belongs to, Jolly. After that strange scenario, they try to think of a place to put their fireworks in. And they come up with a plan to escape. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kneale. They are going to set up the fireworks in a specific location as to pretend to attempt to blow up the barrier, thus getting the heroes' attention, giving them the chance to escape somehow. A bit of a rash plan, but a plan nonetheless. Where would be the best place to set off fireworks? Someplace high. They locate a high tower within the Isle of the Lost, and it happens to be occupied by Mother Gothel and Frollo. Yes, Judge Claude Frollo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Frollo, at this point in his life, has fully embraced his identity as a hypocritical heretic of his faith, and whether or not he's with Mother Gothel to accuse her of a witch or not, I guess we'll see in the coming events. That is the VK's destination, to set off the fireworks. They try to set off the fireworks, and through a series of events they almost get burned. How does this happen? They go up the tower, they sneak around, they place the fireworks in specific locations, and Brock suggested in the event of getting caught that one of them should wear a wig to pretend to be Gothel. At one point, Jolly manages to save Brock and Heather by pretending to be Gothel with a wig when they get caught by Gothel herself, and Jolly pretends to be her conscience, mocking and scaring her about her beauty. For those of you who have seen Tangled, you'll know that Mother Gothel is obsessed with keeping her youth, so talking about her beauty is going to scare her a lot more than you'd think. So they try to cause an explosion to get the hero's attention, to get Jolly off the island. Apparently Jolly's a bit too innocent to be on the Isle of the Lost. Presumably the heroes arrive, and Jolly manages to escape somehow. And during Jolly's escape, he encounters the Beast, who is in charge of Auradon alongside his wife, Belle. And Beast is one of the only people who knows of a secret passage between Auradon and the Isle of the Lost.
And Beast happens to tell Jolly where the secret passage is, because Beast trusts Jolly, apparently. That concludes story number 1. Jolly is in Auradon. Brock and Heather are still at the Isle of the Lost. Story number 2, which happens during Descendants, when Mal, Evie, and the son of Jafar and the son of Cruella de Vil have their little adventure in Auradon. As you know, Kronk has the ability to communicate with squirrels, understanding their language, part of her scout training. And Brock has picked up this talent from his parents alongside the cooking. And recently, he's been talking to this very curious squirrel. Brock had been hearing from his parents about the Emperor's advisor that Kronk used to work for. This caused a fear in Brock's mind as to what she could be like and what her intents could be should she still be looking around. For some reason, Brock couldn't find Yzma lurking around in the Isle of the Lost. But this squirrel, who could talk, informs Brock that she has seen traces of potions belonging to Yzma. To be more specific, the squirrel apparently knows a lot. And Brock and the squirrel talk about their issues. The squirrel even helps out Brock with a few things. And the squirrel tells Brock that she knows a way out of the island. The squirrel tells of potions that are located in Auradon's museum. So through a series of events, I think Jolly gets back to the Lost and gets Heather and Brock to go through this passage blindfolded. Correct me if I'm wrong. And the squirrel goes with them. They reach the Auradon Museum, and they break in. And they were going to knock out the guard, but the guard was already asleep, being Sleepy the Dwarf. So as they sneak in through the museum, they find Yzma's potions, which they're going to use to come in handy. But Heather has sensed a calling towards Maleficent's staff, much like a certain character in the third Descendants movie. I never thought of myself as mean. I always thought that I'd be the queen. That kind of deal. As soon as Heather takes the staff, an evil comes out from Heather, and the team gets teleported with the potions, which were on display, and they get teleported to Neverland. When they reach Neverland, the Lost Boys take the potion vials and hide them as a game. The squirrel gets frustrated, so they play along with the game to hunt down the vials like some kind of demented Easter egg hunt. One of the hiding places of the vials was located next to a bag. It would seem that one of the Lost Boys had accidentally dropped a spare pack of pixie dust. The VKs take it. And the human vial at a waterfall, which the squirrel has particular interest in, the human potion vial, which the squirrel has a particular interest in, is located right at a waterfall. A tricky location for sure. And basically, it's hidden at such a location where the only potential way to reach it is either to struggle and climb up, or to fly. The squirrel climbs up, but she gets stuck. As she's trying to get the human vial, the VK team must learn to fly. All of the kids, Brock, Heather, and Jolly, try out the pixie dust, yet only Heather seems to succeed. Heather learns to fly, and she is struggling to carry Jolly and Brock to get the vial. Although, to my memory, I don't think she is able to carry Brock. She's a bit hefty. Not that he's fat. Good strength, Brock. Good strength. So they fly up. They get the vial, get the squirrel, and Jolly grabs the staff. And because there's no evil in Jolly's heart, apparently, Jolly grabs the staff just in time as they're falling and teleports all of them and the potions back to the museum. The moment they get back, the squirrel finally grabs the human vial and just abandons the team in confusion. The alarm goes off, and Jolly leads Brock and Heather back to the hidden tunnel blindfolded. Brock and Heather are, needless to say, disappointed that they were only able to taste freedom for such a short time despite their camaraderie that they formed. Meanwhile, the squirrel drinks the potion and is revealed to be...
Yzma the whole time.
Yes, that's right. The squirrel that Brock was talking to the whole time was actually Yzma. And she had been hiding in plain sight the whole time, conjuring up her new plan to take over the kingdom of Auradon with her potions. And now that she was free, she could establish a new secret lab, as well as work together with her sons. One of her sons being called Zamos. He plays a crucial part in one of the next stories.
Auradon will have a new emperor. I'm looking good for my age, though I must say I should probably get a potion to make myself look younger. Still more beautiful than Mother Gothel.
Story 3, set after the first Descendants movie. Upon abandoning the island, blindfolded at the time, Heather and Brock feel betrayed by Jolly for being back on the Isle of the Lost. A year passes since Mel and company got off the island of the Lost, and Jolly was not a villain, but sorry, I'm reading off the notes. Jolly essentially makes a theory that it's a little confusing to describe. I think Kneale could describe this better. But essentially, Jolly was trying to see the good in Heather and Brock. And Brock technically was not a villain. So technically, it was just Heather that was the only villain that got off the island. But I don't think that makes the situation better. Anyway, Heather wishes she could get back onto the island, learn to cook some nice tarts. Brock mentions the beauty of a cooking class in Auradon and being tutored by a rat. No, really, I'm talking about Remy from Ratatouille. Jump straight to Descendants 3. Spoilers, barrier goes down, Heather manages to get out, big celebration, villains were back, and one more adventure remains, which brings us to story number 4. Yeah, sorry, story 3 wasn't too eventful, apart from a dramatic sort of perspective. Story number 4. Yzma spent all those years between story 2 and now hiding and working on potions with her sons until Brock met her through a series of events. Zamos, one of Yzma's sons, is particularly crafty. So, Jolly, Heather, and Brock went to Halloween Town for a short visit, but then they flee back in terror,
as Oogie Boogie is now back to play. But we thought he was dead. That must mean he's double dead!
After this shocking revelation, Jolly and Heather have a conversation, a rather serious one at that, and Brock tried to cheer them up. Get this, Brock threw a rock at Jolly to try to be funny, but ends up accidentally slicing his finger off, and Jolly doesn't notice at all. And then a bird, who happened to be a spy for Yzma, took the finger. Brock got nervous and followed the bird, and Brock, being dim-witted and frantic, needed that finger back from the bird. It's understand you don't realize the full context of things to get some of the jokes here. So, Brock follows the bird, which leads her to Yzma's lab. Yzma had sent the bird to watch the people, and Brock is lured into a cave to meet Zamos in Yzma's new lab. And to avoid her identity, Yzma makes Brock think that she is Yzma's twin sister. Brock's not smart enough to see past this, mind you. So Yzma makes Brock do something in exchange for the finger. She needs Yen Sid's hat. Remember the hat that Mickey wore to try to get the brooms to do the chores for him in Fantasia? Well, she needs that hat to enchant her potions for a near-permanent effect. If she enchants her potions with a near-permanent effect, then it will be much harder to transform people back into their original forms. Not impossible, but harder. Of course, Yzma doesn't tell Brock the full details of her plan. All she tells him is, get the hat in exchange for the finger. She sends Brock out and makes him collaborate with her son Zamos. See, I told you Zamos would play a part. Zamos and Brock sneak into Yensid's tower. Zamos is hesitant to be called a friend by Brock, but he brings along some potions in case they get stuck in a jam. Broomsticks guard the hat. And just like settling the knights in a most bizarre fashion in Descendants 3, Brock decides to initiate a dance-off with the broomsticks. Make the broomsticks bust a move. Broomsticks dancing in triangle formation during the shuffle. Needless to say, Zamos was actually laughing hysterically from this. Understandable why. And Zamos and Brock grew a surprising camaraderie. And Brock had fun with Zamos, but then as soon as they take the hat, the tower activates a defense system with a flood, similar to that scene from The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Zamos gets Brock some potions, and they transform into fish to swim out with the hat. There may or may not be a joke depending on what kind of fish they transform into. One of them may or may not have turned into a jellyfish, one of them may or may not have turned into a pufferfish, and shenanigans ensue. They eventually escape, and they deliver the hat. And Yzma exchanges the finger for the hat as promised. As Brock was leaving with the finger, Brock was unsure of the trade, but specifically, Brock was unsure about why she would need something as mundane as his boss's hat. Oh well. As a matter of fact, Brock specifically gives the hat to Zamos so that he would give it to his mother Yzma, and Brock gets the finger. They're happy to give the finger back, and Brock manages to give the finger back to Jolly without him noticing, and Brock joined back in their conversation just in time for Jolly to say, "What do you think about this, Brock?" And Brock, having no idea what they just said, lied and just said, yeah. Needless to say, Yensid catches Brock, and Brock explains to Kronk, "I may have left the island, Dad." Kronk and Yensid agree that Brock should leave his friends behind. Boo-hoo. But the story doesn't stop there. Oh no. The story does not stop there. Join us this October in a Dungeons and Dragons game where the villains attack with Yzma unleashing her enchanted potions.
I've enhanced my craftsmanship with alchemy. Maybe I'll finally get to sing that song that was deleted from the Emperor's New Groove. Snuff out the light. Take a listen.
Coming soon to Dr. Neeltopus and Friends. And there you have it. That is the backstory of Brock, son of Kronk and Scapegoat, I guess? Sorry, Brock. So that is the backstory for Brock, the son of Kronk. I just said that. For more weird backstories on new fan-made characters of Descendants characters in preparation for a Dungeons & Dragons game, feel free to subscribe as we get future characters to be explained fairly soon. And I've said this countless times before, but just to humble myself, I need to say this again. I am truly sorry for lying in the last third of that first Dungeons & Dragons Christmas-themed game on this channel. I know you're sick and tired of letting me hear this, but it's made me learn that you can't undo the sins of the past, but you can admit that you did wrong. Something I hope that some of these VKs will do in the coming story that we're coming up with. I guarantee you I will not be cheating in this game. Unlike that first game. Stakes are going to be high. But who will win? The villains or the villains? get it, because VKs are like the children of the villains, and they're referred to villain kids. That makes the villain kids the heroes, but that wouldn't mean they're VKs anymore. I suppose they're the kids of the villains, but they're heroes. They're villain kid heroes. So VKH, villain kid heroes? Sounds like a terrible Sonic Hero spinoff. Thank you for watching, and keep an eye on that rascal Kneale. See you, Interester. Have a good day.